Hello, happy brew day. Tonight I'm going to use my Electric Brewery and I'm going to make an IPA. It's pretty hoppy. It's got 3 different kinds of hops. It's got at least 3 different additions during the brew process. I'm going to use some Magnum, some Cascade, some Centennial. Got a bunch of 2-row, Crystal 40, and some Cara-Pils. Is my grain bill. Haven't really gotten started much yet. I'm going to have to put some water in the hot liquor tank, get that heated up for doing in. But I've got everything clean, ready to, as far as washed out, ready to use. It's just a matter of getting going. So first thing I'm going to do, and I'll shut the camera off for this, I've got to go over to my water softener and put it in bypass mode. And I have a whole house filtration system after the softener, and I'm going to bypass the softener and start running water through the filtration system so I have good, clean, not soft water. And I know just what amenities I need to add for my water. I add a little bit of lactic acid and a little bit of calcium carbonate, and then that gets my pH value right where it needs to be, right around 5.2, 5.4 for the mashing. Anyway, I'll be back in a minute once I get my water going, and I'll catch up. Okay, I've got my water in the hot liquor tank, and I've got my controller turned on. I'm going to heat up about 9 gallons of water. And I really only need about 6.5 initially, and I need to heat it up to 168 degrees. So I'm going to flip over to my brew controller and show you how I set that up. Alright, there's the brew controller, and if you notice, the middle PID is what I'm using for my HLT or hot liquor tank, and it's also can be used for boil control. I also have, if you look down at the bottom here, you tilt the tripod down, it's plugged in at the bottom. I've got enough outlets on the bottom to where if I plug this one in over here, it attaches to this controller there, which is a variable speed boil potentiometer, so it helps if I want to get some more complete control to my boil, and I actually will be using that when it comes time. But right now, if you'll notice, I'm going to try and get this focused a little better. Okay. If you look, right now my water temperature is at 78 degrees. It's actually set to stop at 212 degrees, but I'm going to set that right now to what it needs to be. First thing I have to do is press the set button here, and you'll notice that 0 starts blinking. It's set at 212.0. Well, I'm going to press it again to go over to the 12, and then I'm going to hit this down arrow here, and it'll 1 digit at a time pull it down. In fact, that's a little too slow for me. I'm going to go to 160 or 88, go one more time, and then put it down that way. Now, it did say is 168.2 in my instructions from Beersmith, so I'll go ahead and set it that. Once I've got it set where I want, I'll just hit the set button, and it'll keep going. Now, just for the sake of demonstration, if I hit the set button here, it'll tell me that right now it's shooting out 100% power to the element, and which is good. That's what I want. One thing about any electric brewery system is you do have your temperature sensors. In this case, it's a platinum controller, PT100, I believe they call it. And in order to get them accurate, you do have to calibrate them. Now, looking at my cord here, I actually have my calibrations written down, and what it tells me, and you can't really read it from a distance here. I'll unplug it here just to show you. Let's see. It says that for me to get this properly set, I need to go, it's minus 4.5 for hot and plus 4.5 when I'm going cold. And of course I only use this for hot, so what I'm going to do is set my offset by holding the set button in, and as soon as I do that, it changes from alarm 1, alarm 2, P to F, kind of controller PT, and I just work my way through, and actually I passed what I wanted. It was the P to F, but you can see there's a bunch of different settings you can adjust. But the one I'm interested in is this one right here, and right now it's set for 1, and I need to make that go minus 4.5. Now I calibrated this by boiling water and knowing how much I had to offset this for boiling water. That's done. Hold the set button to get out of here. I could just wait 15 or 20 seconds and it would go out. And there you go. So right now my water's at 96.1 degrees and it's working its way up. Now one thing you can't really see is that this little light up here is on. It's in use. This thing here, since it's got all the U's on it, that means it's not connected up to anything. What I will use that for is my rim system. Once I get to mashing, I'll recirculate, and I'm going to set that rims up to be about 155, I believe, or 156, maybe a little higher, because you got to take into account temperature variations as you're going through the hoses. But anyway, we'll get to that a little later. Okay, with my water heating up, there's a couple other things I need to do. First thing I want to do, set up my mash system. As you can see, got a cooler over here. Inside the cooler, I'm going to place this. This is my filter arm at the bottom. You can see it's got a bunch of little holes drilled in the bottom, and it'll fit in the fitting. This is my sparge arm, similar. Now what's going to happen with this is the sparge arm is going to go through the lid and hang down. So I'll get started with that in a second here. Okay, took my sparge arm apart, stick it through the hole on the top, put a hose clamp on, put that down, twist my hose clamp shut. Now not only will it hold it in place, but it'll hold it nice and snug. I'll tell you, if you haven't used them, I recommend these thumb screw hose clamps. It's a whole lot easier using a thumb screw than it is getting the screwdriver out and missing the slot, or even if you used a hex head on the top, it's kind of a pain. Oh, while I'm here, I'll show you another thing. You notice on the top of that, got a quick connect. Those are Kent Systems quick connect that I purchased from homebrew.org, Adventures in Brewing, if you want to search on the internet, and bought a bunch of those, got them hooked up pretty much everywhere. They work pretty well. I was a little concerned whether the plastic would work good, but so far they're pretty decent. You make sure you get them twisted in good and locked in place, but if you're careful and watch what you're doing, they work pretty slick. Alright, if you look, My temperature is now at 168.8, 169 degrees. And you'll notice the light up there is blinking on and off, and the controller is blinking on and off because it's trying to keep that temperature right where I had set it. So that's a good thing. Eventually it's going to go down. Over here, I've got all my cables set up, or all my hoses, hoses. You got a hose coming out of the hot liquor tank, going down to my pump, coming out of the pump, into the mash tun. Now what I need to do is take about 6.5 gallons of water out. Right now I'm up at the 10-gallon mark, so I need to get down to the 3.5-gallon mark. First thing I'm going to do is open up the valve in the kettle, let water start siphoning through, and I got water coming out there, so that's good. I'm going to kick on my pump over here. You'll notice I got 2 pump switches. Pump's going, and water is flowing. Now with that pump, I should be able to get, I don't know, I'm guessing 2.5 gallons a minute, give or take. So I'll keep an eye on my sight glass over here, watch it go down, and we'll be back. Alright, it's time to dough in. Get my grain ready here. We actually got it in a 5-gallon bucket. Whole bunch of grain. This is an 8-gallon batch of beer, so consequently the grain bill's fairly large. Oh boy, what a nice smell. And just about done. And as I said, once I get doughed in here, get my mashing underway, I'm going to set up my rim system to try and keep the temperature stable. Although, being in a cooler like this, I don't think that's going to be a big problem. I typically don't lose a whole lot of temp, but I do like the idea of recirculating the wort and getting a nice clean product into my boiling kettle when the time comes. Alright, okay, that's done. Got my lid here. Again, got my recirculating arm there. Put it on top. And that's all she wrote. Alright, got my rim system working. And been adjusting it to make sure I get it going good. You'll notice the water comes out at the bottom of the mash tun, into my pump, out the pump, up to the bottom of my rims, and then it goes through the tube and then out the top of the rims. Now there's a heating element all along the inside of that tube, and the trick is to keep the pump moving slow enough to where the element can keep up with the temperature. Now, that's a really hard thing to do, I have found. I gotta really be careful not to overflow it, or it will not do very well. Now you'll see there's plenty of water coming through, recirculating. And, I mean, it is close. I want it at 156 degrees. So 154, 155 is pretty close. I actually think I may just kick it up a temperature degree or two. Sometimes that helps if you kick it up a degree. Because right now, you know, the element's going 100%. Now this is a 120 volt element, not a 240 volt element. You don't really need one in a room system that's that powerful. I do have a little bit stronger element on order that I'm waiting for. But again, that's recirculating. It's just about time for me to do my mash out and add a couple gallons of 202 degree water. And if you look over here, I'm at 200 degrees there. And sure enough, my timer says it's time to mash out. Okay, I finished mashing out, and the temperature's recirculating a little over 160. It's going to get up to 168. Now what I'm doing, I have to cool down my sparge water because I had about 202 degree water up there. So what I'm doing is I'm just adding some water out of the sink into my hot liquor tank, and I'm going to add it until my sparge water is down to 168. Then once it gets there, then I'll drain off what I'm not going to need, and I'll be in really good shape. Coming down pretty quick. And I'll get down to about 170 and call it good. Just about perfect. And by the time I'm ready to sparge, that'll be good to go. Oops, sorry about that. Let's slow down this for a second. Slowing down my recirculating a little bit, the Vorloff. And my 10 minutes of mashing out are just about done. And one thing I hadn't told you is I've had my Y yeast, or excuse me, my White Labs yeast going for a couple days now. WTL 001 California Ale yeast. Perfect yeast for an IPA, an American APA I should say. Okay, I am all done sparging, or excuse me, I'm all done mashing out, and I am sparging right now. I pulled the rims out of the mix, so now I'm just draining from my hot liquor tank through the mash tun. I'm pumping that into my kettle, and the kettle is almost half full. I'm looking at a boiling volume of about 10.5 gallons, and it looks like right now I'm at about 5, give or take. So I still got a ways to go. Water's still draining. I think it might have been a little out of sync. Not enough water going in for what's coming out. So I think I'm going to slow this down a bit. Yeah. Let's take a look up and see how much water I got left in there. Nothing. Yeah. So we'll just let it drain out and we'll see what we end up with. Oh, you know, actually I misread how many gallons of water I have. Oops, sorry about that. Looking at that, that's right about there, which works out to be about my 9-gallon mark. So I'm doing pretty good. Okay, all done. Getting everything together. Got a good broil going. Just pretty much got through my hot break. Almost had a little bit of a boil over, but caught it in time. But I would call that a good rolling boil. I think I'm going to add some hops. My first hop addition is some Magnum. Good bittering hop. I got some whole leaf hops that I grew this summer. And hopefully they will work out real well. It's the first time I'm using them. So hope they turn out good. And there we go. For a hop bag, I used a 1-gallon paint strainer bag that I picked up at Lowe's. I think I bought 3 bags for $4 or $5, or 3 bags for a couple bucks actually. And works out pretty good. Okay, now that I got my boil going, I need to start my timer. My next addition isn't for 45 minutes. And that's going to be a combination of Cascade, Centennial, and Summit. Then I've got another addition at 50 minutes of some Irish Moss. And then 55 minutes, another addition of Cascade, Centennial, and Summit. And then at Flame Out, I've got an addition. And then I'll be dry hopping this in about a week and a half. Anyway. Next thing you'll see is counterflow chilling. All done with the boil. And right now I'm whirlpooling. I don't know if you can see all the protein spinning around. Trying to whirlpool to get everything kind of to the middle. And what that'll do is coagulate all the, or collect all the proteins and trub and hop garbage in the center of the kettle. So when I drain it out, it'll be relatively clean. Still going to be a lot of crap, but it's alright. But it's turned off. I think I'll start the counterflow chiller going. And we'll be good to go. Checked my final gravity a little bit ago. And it's just like within 1 point of what I expected. So we're doing pretty good. Well, thanks for following along on this brew day. It's taken me somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 hours start to finish. Luckily, had a great first game of the World Series today, 2015. Went 14 innings. The Royals won. Happy about that. So anyway, hope you guys learned a little bit of something. If not, I hope it was at least interesting to see the process. And you guys have a great brew time. Cheers. Well, I'm all done. Ran everything through the chiller. Got it down to a good pitching temp. Pitched the yeast in both the fermentation buckets. Got about 8 gallons of wort and soon to be 8 gallons of beer. I'll have to dry hop it in about 6 or 7 days, and then we'll be bottling in 2 to 3 weeks and kegging.